Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hotline League. We are fresh off of finals just a couple days ago, and what a banger series it was. The ending, obviously, is something that we will be discussing on this show, but we have a couple special guests who are highly relevant to the results of that match. We'll get into that in just a second, but first, let me introduce my co-host for the evening. It's none other than Cubby. Cubby, how's it going?
I'm great. It was a really, really fun weekend. One of the highlights, of course, being Hotline League Live. I know that VOD's now up on YouTube at least, so tune into that if you missed it. We had some really good conversations, and it was really cool to see everyone just around the stage and saying hey. So yeah, first time I've done that, and your fans continue to be awesome, especially when the callers are actually real, not just over the internet.
Yeah. No, it was really, really fun doing Hotline League Live. Shout out to Kia for making that happen, a sponsor of the show. And yeah, I mean, it was your first Hotline League Live. What did you think, Cubby?
It was fun. I mean, I got to quip with Mark, and he forgot about the 9 and 10 joke, which was funny.
That was great. Yeah.
Yeah, we had some other good moments up there. And I mean, the fans, like, it was honestly incredible seeing like all the jerseys. There were so many TL jerseys out in the sea of people, especially a lot of the exclusive Deadpool ones they had. I was like amazed. I think I saw like 12 of them at the event. I think they only made 300. So yeah, the fandom, like honestly, that venue, I've been to a few LCS finals now, and that was one of my favorite venues in terms of the size and the fan fest and everything. It was actually really cool.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed it, and it was just so cool, especially whenever we didn't have a spring finals, to be able to do that one. Really appreciate it. Before we introduce our guests here, shout out to Kia for sponsoring the show, PrizePicks, and NZXT, who sponsors not just us but also our guests for the evening, which is awesome. So first off, let me introduce Nukeduck. Nukeduck joining us, head coach of FlyQuest. Congrats on the weekend. How's the last couple days been for you?
They've been good. Of course, very happy with the win. I was planning to like go on a vacation actually, but my whole yesterday was spent sitting on a plane that was getting delayed, and then finally canceled at 6 p.m. So that was a bit of a bummer day, but other than that, pretty happy. Very happy with the result, obviously.
So wait, did you just give up on the vacation then?
Yeah, because we're traveling on the 13th, and also FlyQuest is giving us a expensive team dinner in the middle of the week. So, at that point, like I just took the refund and decided to stay.
Yeah, that's rough. Oh, sorry to hear about that. That's a bummer. Well, we're also joined right now by Damonte. Damonte, did you also have vacation plans?
Honestly, no. I was planning on just kind of sitting in my room for a good 5 days since we've been grinding pretty hard.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about that nuke. That's pretty unlucky, bro.
Yeah.
What were you gonna do in your room? Azeroth?
I've been playing a bunch of Nasus mid. That's pretty fun. You just kind of like chill, scale up. Doesn't really matter what you do.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, just chilling.
Nice. Well, I'm glad to hear that was going on. Actually, do you want to talk about what you do, Damonte? Because I know some folks are used to seeing Nukeduck on stage, but I know many FlyQuest fans know that you coach, but some folks still might not know what you do with them. So do you want to talk a little bit about your role with the organization?
Yeah. So basically, I'm like, I guess the official title that FlyQuest gave me is the esports coordinator or like performance coordinator. So it's basically a performance coach, but I'm doing more than just the league team. So I work on all the competitive teams for FlyQuest. League is like the one team that I'm there on site all the time with. So I spend 100% of the time with the LCS team, but kind of help all the teams in a bunch of different ways, honestly. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't. It's funny. Even now, I asked you that question. I did not know you were working so much with the other teams as well. What has it been like working with like non-League of Legends players?
It's a different world, especially in Counter-Strike. So like I started working with the CS2 team that FlyQuest picked up, and they're all like 5 Australian players, and they're much older. It's just a different vibe for the Counter-Strike teams. And then, I mean, I'm working with the 2 red teams at FlyQuest as well, helping them on the Valorant and Counter-Strike team as well. So it's a different vibe for those teams because I'm doing it all remote. So I'm not able to like be in the mix as much as I am with LCS, but it's cool seeing a bunch of different perspectives and people in the scene.
Yeah. What do you mostly do? Like, especially with those other teams, are you just calling and having conversations with them, being like, "How you holding up? What's going on? Anything you need to talk about?" Are you like an unlicensed therapist in some ways? I assume.
Call myself like a Walmart therapist. I use that one pretty often. But I help all the coaches a lot as well, if I'm being honest. I think that's one of the main things that I do, kind of just keep them on point with all their ideas about coaching, how they structure the coaches, all the systems they use. I kind of like fill in the holes whenever needed. But I would say like the main thing I'm doing is yeah, helping the players individually. So for the ones that are not at the office, having calls with them. For the coaches that are at the office, kind of just like helping them structure their practices. What are they doing? Fine tune some of their skills. And then for the league team at the office, if you went to the office, you could see a lot of my work there. But it's just a lot of like helping the team progress forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, hey, I think we'll have a ton of questions on the show tonight. Obviously, if you all have been living under a rock, I know spoilers, but FlyQuest won, which was, I think, some people would consider a pretty big upset. We'll talk to both of these folks if they also feel like it was an upset or not. But that was the big news. The stage and arena, I think, were really, really fun. I don't think we've gotten any big news out. Did we talk about Impact MVP on the last show, Cubby? I forget if that news has come out.
I mean,
Yeah, I think
it came out during, but it was a pretty easy and obvious win. So I think that conversation is kind of said and done. But if anyone has takes, sure.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that. I think there's been a little bit of general discussion. Oh, I saw the Reddit thread go up. Maybe it was yesterday or whatever about the LCS average viewership being up 23% and peak viewership up 16% compared to summer 2023. Obviously, that's coming from esports charts, which I tend to take, any kind of third party with a little bit of grain of salt. But I mean, it is them comparing their last year's numbers to this year's numbers. So I think that's pretty great. A big discussion about Mark and the impact that he's had on the scene. I guess we had some. I hear my favorite author has yet another accomplishment added to his list of accomplishments, Cubby.
Yeah, if anyone tuned into NACL, they would have seen Dragonsteel stomp 3-0 yesterday. So, yeah, I was happy for the squad. They got beat by FlyQuest Challengers in spring, and then they got upset by Surdy and Stu and Sealaw. So I know talking with them, they really wanted to, win on stage and not be known as chokers, and they won very convincingly. So they're off to Brazil tomorrow with Fear Starforge to represent us for Americas, which starts up on Saturday.
Yeah. It's just really cool to see that ended up working out. I'm happy that hopefully he feels good about the investment that he made. I know you were telling me that you did not. I feel like a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even a month ago on the show, you said that you weren't sure if that was going to be the result. It seemed like even though they've been having a good run, I feel like you were looking at a couple other teams with a little bit more of faith.
They were always the top dogs. I just had a lot of faith in specifically FlyQuest Challengers to actually keep on scaling. That team didn't really hit the potential they had last split, so they weren't able to match them. I thought thought it was going to be a rematch of finals, but they dropped in a close 5-game series to Fear Starforge and then dropped. They dropped at Dragonsteel. So
yeah. So congratulations to Dragonsteel. I don't know if we'll get a call about that on the show, but if anybody feels strongly about it or feels there's some cool narrative that they want to attach to it, that would be cool. But yeah, other than that, I mean, what Nukeduck and Damonte, I'm just going to cut to the chase. What was the experience like watching your team win via minions at the very end?
I mean, that was crazy. Obviously, there's a video about how that happened, and me and Miffy are discussing draft, and I'm guessing Tanner is thinking about how he's gonna calm down the guys before the next game, because they basically just we basically threw away the championship because their nexus was open. It was absolutely free. There is no way they win from that spot, and we kind of threw it away. So it was gonna be like we were worried about like the guys' nerves and stress level and like tilt after that. So me and Miffy were talking, looking, we don't have the screen, and then the replay just freezes and the camera starts moving towards their nexus while we're looking at what's happening at our nexus, and then we hear screaming, and yeah, we realized that we actually just won somehow, and yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
It
Damonte,
had to
what
be
was
like
the
the biggest.
experience like for you?
It had to be the biggest 180 of emotions I've ever seen in like a league game. At least that like I've experienced, and especially coaching. Like honestly, I was completely devastated, thinking how are we gonna bounce back from that? And then yeah, like Nuke said, like I think Andrew or someone just started yelling minions and the screen panned, and then it was just like, wait, what the fuck? We like actually won, and it was like thank God, and like just all the relief came out.
Dude, you know what's so crazy to me is oftentimes, like, I am by far not great at calling when a game is done. Like, there's been many times where I'm watching a game and I'm like, wait, did they just win this? And it's like, no, of course not. Like, they get a tower outside of the Nexus or something like that. But that game, I was sitting next to some friends watching, and I start seeing Team Liquid push up the mid lane, and I'm like, I looked at the mini map and I see a giant red blob outside their base, because we're watching on massive screens. I'm sitting in the upper bowl of the theater, and I'm like, there's a giant wave of minions down there. Like, is somebody going to have to recall, or what's the deal? I like lean over, and it takes like maybe 4 or 5 seconds before the control room like calls for like a pip picture in a picture to show it. And I'm like, this is like a race that's going to happen. And it's so funny too, because I think a lot of people they had started celebrating already, especially once like Busio died. People are like, okay, this is happening. And it was funny because I talked to a fan of Team Liquid outside of the arena afterwards who asked me for like a picture, and I was like, oh yeah, hope you had fun even if today was crazy or unfortunate. And he goes, yeah man, like it was insane. He's like, I was sitting in the stands and I was so excited. He's like, I jumped up and I turned around and I'm like yelling at the crowd behind me and it was like cheering about how they won. And he's like, I just look at everybody's faces like look shocked and aghast. And he's like, what? And he like turns around at the screen. He's like, no. And it's so funny because a lot of these matches, a lot of these games, I'm like backstage, I'm doing interviews, I'm like setting up for something, and I'm watching from the screen in like some backstage room. And I'm so happy that I was in the audience for this one because it was just one of the craziest finishes. And like it's sitting in the audience surrounded by all these people where I know the emotional 180 you're talking about in the room was crazy, but also just in the audience, like the gasps of like insanity, like so, especially because I do think there were more Team Liquid fans in the audience than FlyQuest fans. And so just hearing like the dismay all at once as everybody shifts from like such joy, whatever. It was wild. We're actually, Cubby, what was going on with you?
Well, I was sitting with a FlyQuest fan.
Okay.
And me being caster brained, I saw the pip come up and I immediately looked at Bwipo at TP up. So it was like that, like that's the timer, right? Like if he can TP down, I didn't think the minions would do all the work. And then I obviously I was focused on Busio pulling the wave because backdoor bonus. But yeah, I was really surprised the minions ended. That was crazy. I was in the audience for the Danny Penna, and I was in the audience for that. And those are the two most memorable moments that I have from watching League games, for sure. That was just a wild moment. So yeah.
I'm interviewing some of the FlyQuest players tomorrow, and I can't wait to ask them, like, because the craziest thing is I can't imagine what it was like for them just sitting there. Like you have no control over what's happening. Like I know oftentimes somebody's dead in base as maybe somebody's trying to kill the Nexus or whatever. But in this case, all 5 players are just sitting there watching the minions do their work, and there's nothing they can do. So they're just like, we might win this, but it's in none of our control, and it's just it's so wild. It's so wild.
Hindsight 2020, I think you send core back, and it's game 5, but TL didn't make that call, part of the fun of league, and yeah, that was one of the wilder ways to win. If that's the end of LCS, then man, what a way to go out,
Yeah, there was I just interviewed, because I'm trying to interview a bunch of the teams before they go to Worlds, and I just interviewed APA and Umpty, and I was talking to both of them, and APA. So those videos come soon to the channel. Please subscribe. But I was just talking to APA, and he's like, yeah, I just feel like all of us all 5 players could have done one thing differently, any one of us, and it would have gone differently. He's like, even with him, he was talking about how he could have like ulted Busio back and maybe been able to do a little bit more damage faster or something. The team would have been able to. It's gonna be so memorable. I feel like for many years this series. So that was good. How are the team players reacting afterwards, Damonte?
I don't know. I mean, I think everyone was just kind of shocked. The adrenaline was definitely out of the roof. Like, I don't know. I think Buppo is super happy. You know, I think Buppo, for him, like, he questioned himself, like, if he could ever get another trophy, honestly. And like, that player is really good, and I think he deserved it. For like the bot laners, I think it was like pure like euphoria. Honestly, winning the first trophy for them, it's just like holy shit. And then like the way we did it, they're like, what? How? Um, you know, I think inspired. He like expects to win, so I think he was like, honestly, I don't know if he thought we deserved it from like the way we won, but you know, he enjoyed it when he got it. And Quad, I think Quad as well. Like this whole year has been whiplash for him. Like moving to North America and then just crushing Academy and then replacing Jensen, going straight to MSI and like competing at Worlds randomly now and then winning LCS. Like couldn't be a better year for Quad if you think about it.
Yeah, no, it is super cool to see the experience that he's had, and yeah, seems like a really cool player too. So I don't know, such a crazy experience. I wanted to ask both of you because I know in esports you kind of have to have this like confidence. You know, players talk about this often. You always have to assume that you can win or that you're the better team or whatever. Going into this, I think a lot of people felt as though FlyQuest were significant underdogs. Like, I'm wondering if you both felt that, like you felt like this was going to be a tough match, or if you felt really confident and this felt kind of expected. You know, where were both your heads at?
So for me, when we played them in the upper bracket final, I think we had some players that were kind of like choking, honestly, and it still was so close. So I thought it was very possible. Like we were getting destroyed in laning phase, and then like we were falling 5k down in gold, and we were still like so competitive. And even the game 5 still came down to a team fight where our series had 4 items, and it was extremely winnable even the last game. So I thought, you know, if we show up those things and like we don't give them like those angles, then might just be like better and we can win. But then also if they got those angles and then converted better, they could also win. So I thought it was like up in the air, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, Damonte.
I think there's two things other than like I agree with what Nuke said entirely. But the two things for me is one, I think like the slingshot, losing the winners finals deal, and then playing that second place match on the weekend is really OP. So I think that gave me like some confidence knowing that at least we'll have a match on stage the day before finals. And then you mentioned it earlier, but we got to scrim Maryville a lot last week, and that team is actually like pretty good. So I don't know I don't know who the other teams really scrimmed, but we got to scrim them, and like they gave us like real practice, which I think
Yeah.
did help a lot.
I actually have a funny story about that because shout out to Riot, by the way. So, of course, our finals on Sunday, but they gave tickets to both the Dragonsteel and the Fear Starforge teams to go to the show on Saturday when they got in. It's really cool. But I ran to the Dragonsteel and was talking with like Niles and them. And I was like, hey, like based on your scrims, because at this time of the year, a lot of the teams are inactive. So you do end up kind of just scrimming whoever at the top of whoever's still competing, which in this case was them. Like, hey, based on your scrims, like, you know, who would you expect to win? And he's like, dude, we got 12-0'd by TL, and we probably got 3 Barons like in the entire set. Like we were just getting like spanked by them, right? And then they scrimmed them a lot because apparently they scrimmed Fear Starforge for like 2 games, then canceled because you know they were too bad. And he's like, yeah, we actually did okay against like FlyQuest. Like I know Scary Jerry like played really well in those games. What he said. So it was kind of funny to hear like they really thought the TL were gonna beat you guys this weekend based on the scrims. And yeah, I mean obviously different from stage, but it was definitely really funny like to see TL being down 2-1 is when I saw them, and they're like, dude, we got spanked by TL. Like those games were not close, right? So it was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was great. Well, let's get into some calls. Do you want to give the spiel, Cubby?
Yeah, if you guys want to join in to call into Hotline League, talk to all of us, including our special guest and Damonte and Nukeduck, you can go to you can do so by joining the Discord, discord.gg/Travis. Drop your take into either pleb topics or subtopics. If you are subs, it throws you in there. Does it make a difference in what we pull? No, but it is a little bit easier for me to go through those, so it's always nice. And yeah, in terms of topics, obviously we got the winning staff of FlyQuest. I think the other two hot topics that might be interesting, Travis. I don't know if you want to go over it, but apparently at least the Brazilian teams find out who's in or out today, and that's going to be coming up. And also in terms of news, I know that Damonte's old peer Thinkcard announced that he is exploring his options. And we also have a rumor of the world song being Linkin Park, who are featuring a new lead singer as they are
I
scheduled.
mean,
to
the
perform in
Linkin Park
London.
stuff, I don't know if I'm ready for us to dive into
All right.
Scientology on this show, which I believe is the drama, is some of the drama around that. But I will say it is very unfortunate for Riot, because I'm sure that they've been building up this thing with Linkin Park for a while. And like, I do believe Mike is at least a fan of League or something. I remember he was at the Arcane premiere. So it is just very funny that they are almost certainly like the world's act, and it's just unlucky timing for Riot that like all this drama is surrounding them. But maybe that will spark more conversation around Worlds. I don't know. So yeah, that is kind of funny. By the way, if you are a sub or a member over on YouTube, first off, thank you for being one. Please make sure that when you sync your Discord with YouTube and or Twitch to get access to the subtopics channel, it does allow you to put your take in there, and that does put you in the subcalls room. It moves a little slower, so we can try to pull from that chat as well. We always try to pull a little bit. It's no guarantee that you get on the show, but it is kind of like a little nice thing that we do. But yeah, we can go ahead and do that. Oh, one more note while Cubby's getting starting to get folks pulled in. There will not be a Hotline League next week because I'm going to be out of town. I don't expect there to be much news. I don't know. Maybe I will have to like jury rig something if some crazy stuff happens when we start to learn who's not going to be in the league or something leaks. But we've just done 3 episodes. This is our 3rd episode of the last 7 days, so I think it's okay for us to maybe skip 1 week. But yeah, I think we'll be back the following Monday, which will make a little bit more sense because then we'll be in much closer proximity to World's conversations. So should have a lot of stuff to talk about by then. But yeah, we'll miss that next one. Either way, cool. You want to go grab the first caller, Cubby?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Thank you to a whole bunch of people here. Bernie's Left Nut, thank you for the 18 months. Laser Fruit for the 2 years. NK Vale. I'm Elvis 4 with the 70 months. Mouth 69, thank you for the 8 months. Danny Grimm, who I saw very briefly this weekend. Unfortunately, it's always a bummer whenever I get to meet people but don't get a chance to hang out with them for very long. Gifted 5 subs. Hope you had a good time, Danny. Bronzan with the Prime. ppdoc, thank you for gifting to Damonte and to Nukeduck. I'm sure they'll appreciate those subs. Kind of surprised that they had to sub. I would have expected them to already be subbed. We got Wild for 57 months. Slap me in with the Prime. Zemelci for the 41 months. And then over on YouTube, we got Bob and George with the gift, and NC, who gifted 5 subs. Really appreciate the support over there. Twitch kind of crushing YouTube right now, but I see Bob and George and NC holding it down on the YouTube side. We'll see how that goes. We got Icebreaker here. Icebreaker, where are you calling from?
Yo, I'm calling from Indianapolis, Indiana.
Indianapolis, Indiana. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so this is a question more aimed at Nukeduck, but obviously Damonte can chime in on this. Nukeduck, you've worked with Busio now for 2 years across 2 teams with 2 very different AD carries. How has it been like to coach him and see him develop as a player? I know he came out of Academy as someone who was highly touted, but it seems like he's very much stepped up this year in the bot lane in FlyQuest.
Yeah, so so like I started working with him back then in 2023 when he was just a rookie, and I don't think you don't learn the game that much in Academy in NA, I think. So it was pretty fresh, and I would say that the biggest things for him is that he kind of learned to be more assertive of his own plays. it was very much a dynamic in 100 Thieves where like he really had to follow like whatever Doublelift wanted him to do. Otherwise, you know, no one's was gonna like have a good time basically. And then Inspired and Vippo are also people with very strong voices. But if you just follow others, you will be like always half a second too late, and you'll never be that impactful, and you won't be the reason you win ever, I would say. So like him just learning, he just stepped up basically in the latter part of Summer Split and became like a player that can make his own plays and like carry games as support. I would also say it helped me to get Miffy in. Like our first staff in spring was me, Richard, and Arrow, and Richard was like for top lane and mostly a top mid coach, whereas Miffy is like elite support coach. So he obviously filled in gaps that I didn't know and Busio didn't know about support. So like that also helped elevate him. And then now I think he just gathered enough and finally became strong enough to just be like a force on his own. And that's what we saw as well in like the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't know, Damonte, if you had anything you wanted to chime in on there.
Obviously I missed all of 2023, so I think what Nuke is saying is probably pretty important there. I think him coming from like playing with Doublelift to playing with Massu is a big switch as well. I think playing with Massu, he has much more like ability to like grow his own self versus do something that his AD carry tells him to do. So I think he had a lot more openness to just like kind of learn the game his way versus just like learning the game Doublelift's way.
Yeah. It's fun to hear you both talk about that because I remember people are going to go find this. I did an interview with Busio at World Finals last year, like with the stage behind. He was in Korea and he came out, and Kelby, who works with Busio, was like, "Hey, Travis, Busio is going to be there. Do you want to do an interview with him under embargo about joining flying?" And I said, "Sure." And so we talked about that, hoping that the people nearby couldn't understand what we were talking about. And and he did discuss a lot about how excited he was to like sort of carve his own path after spending the year with Peter. And it's neat to see that he was able to do that, and it's also really impressive to see the progress that he made, because I think the jury was kind of undecided on him as a player last year, if I recall. People were excited about him, then I feel like at times they were like, "Oh yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing." And I feel like there's a lot of respect for him in that bot lane now over the course of this year. So I don't know. I'm really excited to see how well he's done. I think he's a really nice guy and just overall a good player for the league and a good person to have in the space. So, yeah. I don't know, Cubby. Do you have much thoughts on Busio's experience over the last couple of years? I feel like you might.
Yeah, I got a few. There was a fun screenshot I had from Papa Smithy saying that he'll be better than Core in 23 in a Discord. Beating him in 24 in finals is a good start, I'd say. That one was from a while back. There was I don't know. Busio is like one of the players that like it's hard for me not to be biased towards, as he's one of the players I've talked to a little bit more with his time coming up from ACAD, and I always really believed in him. He was I was one of his first interviews outside of just the documentary. The interaction we had where I randomly mentioned like a sports psychology book that helped me, and like 3 months later I just get a random ping out of the blue and he's like, "Hey, I read it. It's really good." And I was like, "Whoa." I was like, that's really never happened to me as a player. He's like just a very capable, normal kid, and I found it very entertaining this year to see a lot of people doubt him. And I think that in terms of gameplay, those doubts were warranted. But for anyone that's actually met him or gotten the chance to work with him or just talk to him, it's like for me, it was always clear that he was going to be successful. Like given some of the accolades he had coming into this, and like given the head that he has on his shoulders. So I'm really happy for him that he got to defy those expectations for others and expectations that I always had for him. And yeah, I mean, props to you guys for helping him get there. But I'm sure that you guys know working with him, he's very malleable and just a really impressive kid. So yeah.
Yeah. I think just to add on to that, like I had like a really good moment with Busio after we won, and a big reason is like back in I think 2016, I did or 2017 when I was playing an Echo Fox. I did a Reddit AMA, and someone asked me if there's any like up and coming mid lane players that I see in solo queue. And I always thought Busio was the shit, even when he was playing mid lane and he was like 13 years old.
Yep.
So you could go find that Reddit thread and like my comments there saying Busio is gonna be like a good mid laner eventually. So I have like a special place in my heart for Busio, and like we had a really good moment after we won, and it's just like it's crazy to see his growth even just this 1 year.
Yeah. I don't know if you had any follow-ups here at Icebreaker.
I guess like the other thing when it's just like when it comes to developing, I mean, Busio's a second-year player, Massu is a rookie, and Quad is also a rookie. Like, do you have to kind of handle each of their developments in their own way, or are you able to kind of like put the three of them together at the time to kind of teach them things? Just curious from like a development standpoint, like what works the best.
I think it works best to do it separate. So like have Arrow work separately with Massu, Mithi separately with Busio, and then me separately with Quad. I will say Quad played in LCK, so he's not like that. Like he isn't as fresh as those guys, but
Yeah.
still he had some like LCK tendencies that like we don't like really at FlyQuest. We liked him to do like a different way, and like so that I've just been working with him with that. So that's just what I've been doing basically, and yeah, I think just separate, like having like full attention of one coach on one player. I think that's pretty powerful. Can spot all like his bad habits and like really like talk about everything. So yeah, I think that's the best if you have the resources for that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hey,
I
go ahead.
I find it funny, obviously. So like, Quad's not a rookie. There was a really funny graphic though that ran during the series where LCS forgot that Quad went by the IGN Solka and didn't include his games as Solka, which is actually kind of funny because they had like the games played for, I think it was FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves, because obviously 100 Thieves much less experienced team and definitely made Quad look a little bit less experienced than he actually is. So
Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much, Icebreaker, for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, I got a couple. Shout out Northern Illinois football. Shout out Jordan Love's ACL for not tearing this weekend. That's gonna make my mental health a lot better for the next couple months. And shout out this weekend. The finals were super fun, and I'm super excited to watch all three of these teams at Worlds in a month.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Super. It's so fun to think about this past weekend. I'm still sort of vibing at it. I had missed live events so much, and just the shout out to this weekend, I completely feel it because doing the live stuff, seeing people outside walking around and at FanFest, it was really, really cool. So I'm actually really sad I didn't get to explore FanFest more because I was on stage. Obviously worth it, but I missed out on it. The only thing I really experienced was Portillo shoving a picture of the clown Jinx in my face saying, "You have to get a Cloud9 emote, Travis. You have to get a Cloud9 emote." And then I didn't get a chance to. So, unfortunate. Anyway,
I had the best mix, man. I was with you for what 30 minutes the first day, and I got to roam and then see it all. So yeah, shout out to all the vendors, and yeah, I mean, again, I know it was mentioned, but like that venue was perfect. Like I know that people like want a roadshow elsewhere, and I would agree. It's important for the LCS to travel, but I would go back to that venue in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Anybody know? But speaking of Portillo, anyone know what he tweeted? He tweeted out a video, a clip, but I don't know what it was. I also want to take a moment, speaking of FanFest, to talk about Kia, who is sponsor of this show. Really appreciate Kia's support over the course of Summer Split. I need to check, but this might be just in case. This might be the last Kia sponsored show because we had them through Summer Split. And if that is the case, I do just really want to, and even if it's not, I do just really want to thank them for sponsoring not just Hotline League, but also multiple LCS teams and the LCS over the course of this year. I think it's really remarkable that we still have amazing partners who come in and support authentically. They had a really cool setup at FanFest where not only did they have us on stage doing really great things, and folks, like that stuff is not cheap. I just want to say, like, their investment to create experiences like that for fans in person and online that is something that is pricey. I mean, me having to just pay Cubby's rate is insane for an event like that, and they have to compensate me so that I can pay him for that. But they also were supporting multiple LCS team booths. They had a really cool thing with I think it was NRG where they had
Yes.
a Kia. I think it was probably the 2025 K4 that they had filled with plushies, and I need to go see what it is, but you had to predict how many plushies were in the car and you could win something, and I thought that was pretty neat. They had their own sort of challenge area as well where you could get something from I believe it was like a Kia locker. So it was really cool just to see them do some really cool stuff at FanFest. If you haven't had a chance, go take a look at the 2025 K4, a really amazing vehicle. They had like you could see it in the shots on Hotline League. It was right next to the stage, and we had sitting next to us this really cool one that had like all this League of Legends art that they had wrapped it with. So just really great to have them as a partner over the course of the split. And so if you can, going and tweeting at Kia and saying thanks for sponsoring this year, or if you do end up getting a Kia, making sure that you use social media to let them know that their sponsorship of LCS and the teams and Hotline League were a big part of that. I just really want partners that come in and make serious commitments to the league to be able to receive the support that I think they deserve from all of us for being able to come in and help everybody. So thanks so much to Kia for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate their support, and especially this past weekend. I didn't know if I'd get a chance to do one of those stage shows for a while, and the fact that they were down to help make that all happen, I think was really cool. So thanks to Kia. All right. You want to grab the next caller, Cubby?
Yep.
Shout out to Zemelci for the 41 months. Really appreciate that. Thank you, by the way, to everybody who subs on the channel. That stuff is really significant. We're still down a couple hundred subs since Twitch changed the cost of this stuff. And so that type of thing is really helpful, especially as I'm looking to try to get to Worlds. Similar with YouTube memberships. Thank you to Misha for the 10 gifted subs. I feel like, Misha, you've sent a bunch of support over the past week, so I really do appreciate that. All right, we got Bulbasaur here. Bulbasaur, where are you calling from?
Hey, I am calling from Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. Not my favorite city, but a cool group of people that I've met there. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so my take is that FlyQuest's win, and by extension, Team Liquid's loss, is good for NA going into Worlds. I think the win gives FlyQuest much needed confidence, and Team Liquid has a loss to learn and bounce back from. On top of that, FlyQuest and Team Liquid, I believe, are the best top two that NA has sent to Worlds. I think most of the conversation this year has been about how, there's a top three in LCS with Liquid kind of being a level above. And I think some of the conversation going into finals is that Team Liquid's Worlds performance, and by extension, North America's hope for Worlds, is sort of based on how they perform on finals, with most expecting, like a 3-1. I think the manner in which FlyQuest won, though, kind of eased those worries. This wasn't like Team Liquid tripping over themselves and throwing 5K gold leads 3 games in a row. This is, I think Whippo, he talked on Pros about how with Team Liquid, it's like a fist fight, where both FlyQuest and Team Liquid sort of punch and counterpunch each other, unlike other teams. And I think you really felt that in the match. It was pretty competitive, and both teams were thinking about how to be proactive as well as how to properly react to plays, rather than having a more vegan gameplay where teams just kind of scale and wait for the other teams to make a mistake. And yeah, I think that Coach Spawn and Team Liquid's coaching staff will be able to identify the weaknesses and mistakes going into Worlds. I believe that losers brackets now in finals is 6-4 when it comes to the final match, which is interesting. And yeah, I think we've had individually good teams that NA sent to Worlds, but I don't really think we've had a top two that's been as fundamentally sound with good proactive macro.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, this take is funny. It's very similar. Maybe I'm going to get in trouble with my guess here, but I was talking to Kobe. I mentioned this in an interview with the Team Liquid player, so sorry if you have to hear it twice. But I was talking to Kobe 2 nights ago after the match was done, and I was like, I'm really excited for FlyQuest, and I'm really excited about the way that match ended. The only downside I see is it would have been really cool to send this mega undefeated team to Worlds, because I feel like the hype around Team Liquid would have been so real if they'd just been able to like clean sweep all the way through summer and, you know, never drop a match. And his response was like, yeah, but now I feel like we've got two awesome teams that we can be hyped for. Like, we're sending two really good teams to Worlds. And I think that that's a really great attitude and a really good way of putting it, because I am really excited to see both these teams go. I'm a little more worried about 100 Thieves, but I'm excited that they're getting to go and that we have a team of newer players that are going to get some experience. Damonte, you are the performance coach. How meaningful is it for the team, you think? Because it sounds like Bulbasaur here thinks that like getting the win is a big confidence boost for these guys. Sort of, how much do you see that yourself? And I don't know, how does that play into their potential performance?
I mean, it's definitely a confidence booster. You end the season as the #1 team, so it's kind of like, oh shit, everything that we worked for like was worth it, and we did it, and now we're here. So I think managing the expectations for Worlds for us will be maybe a little bit harder now, but at the same time, I think like I don't know, we really came together, and I would say the last 3 weeks of the season, like at the last 3 weeks of playoffs, I guess. So I think it's good. You know, we're gonna be coming in like strong and with something to prove still, feeling like, okay, we're representing #1 for NA.
Yeah. Cubby, I didn't know if you wanted to jump in at all on.
I mean, I said it on the Kia stage, right? But this is the most confident I've been even before the games in NA for 10 years. Like I've been a fan for a long time. The last time I was actually confident was 2014. I feel like that C9 and TSM were really strong, and sending them over was probably the most hope I had to get, you know, two teams in quarters or further. And I feel the same way about the two teams this time around. I wasn't like, because TL, I feel like when they four-peated, there weren't secondary options that were quite as strong. 16 maybe you could make it, or the year that COG beat TSM in finals, I think maybe, which I think was 15. But I can't remember me feeling as good about teams like being sent abroad. Maybe it's just that EU's weaker. Maybe it's because like I legitimately believe in some of these teams. Like just the mix of talent that's young and then talent that's been around for a while, and the heights that we've seen each of these teams hit when they do play good maps is actually really exciting. So I feel like it's the best chance we've had to get two teams in quarters in a long time, really long time.
Yeah. Nukeduck, how do you feel about LEC? I mean, clearly you have a history there, so I'm kind of curious where your head's at on terms of the two of you. Cubby, I don't know if we have an LEC take, but we're setting these two teams over. There's a lot of hype behind both you guys and Team Liquid. I feel like there's a little bit of anti-hype around LEC. Where's your head at on all of that?
Yeah, so when I used to play, so in LEC, I never viewed NA as like a scary opponent, honestly. Like even I was like in Rift Rivals or scrimming them in Korea before like seasons and stuff like that. Like we even scrimmed against like the team that won in 2022, the Cloud9, and we were like, it was not close. Like we could just feel that they were worse. But now when with our team at least, and then also like TL, who can be very strong too. I think probably like if you're talking like relatively to LEC, I would say we have like a strong, like we are sending strong teams. TL also took T1 to multiple games. Can't remember the score exactly. So maybe though it's hard for me to like look at like LCK or LPL and say like that we're like gonna be like how we match up against them. I would say it's hard to say, but for beating LFC, I'm hopeful. So I guess and also we are. I think the confidence boost is kind of real from this win, to like kind of like legitimize everything we're doing. So
Yeah. Damonte, you were with NRG when you guys won last year. How did that boost like help this team, and would you kind of learn from that experience that you want to like keep, or like maybe in this one, or would you learn from that experience like you feel like you can almost implement in this team with this group that you've got to?
I mean, I always tell stories about NRG because, you know, I think that it's a common narrative for a lot of people. It's just like, yeah, NRG just got lucky. And I think it could be looked at that way. But also that team, like, it was just pure confidence, pure trust in each other. And I think that's what got them so far. And I think I've tried to like instill that same idea into FlyQuest. It's like it doesn't really matter who we play. I think it's like a really big thing to just like you kind of feel on the inside that maybe an LCK or the LPL teams or maybe G2 just feel unbeatable. And I feel like you gotta get rid of that feeling, because the more you internalize the fact that, oh, this player is a god, that team is so good, there's no way we can beat them, the less of a chance you actually have of beating them. So it's mainly just about showing up, playing the game, trusting each other, trust your practice. So
Yeah. The one thing I do want to be wary about in terms of like some NA fans, right? Looking at EU is I G2, like I've seen G2 peak when the time was right every single time. So I think that like they are a team where, you know, you get to a certain caliber or pedigree that I just have faith that they're going to show up when the time counts. Like that staff's done it with that team so many times before. So I think that G2 is like going to be a real competition, but I've got a pretty good feeling about like you guys going up against the other teams that LEC is sending. And even 100 Thieves, I don't think we're going to see 100 Thieves versus MDK, but that could be an interesting one too, as MDK is. You could make the same argument that kind of like on 100 Thieves, people weren't expecting them to be there, and so we're kind of going to have to see what form they're in, because MDK dropped a lot of games after their winter split. So yeah.
Hey, caller, do you have Bulbasaur? Do you have anything that you would like to add to any of this before I give you your shoutouts?
No, I don't think so. I think you all covered it pretty well. I will say that even though, again, I do think that these are the two best teams that NA has sent to Worlds, yeah, I do think that it is important to obviously keep expectations, I guess, realistic. I mean, it's still hard to compete against, you know, the 4 teams China and Korea are sending, and of course G2 always peaks at the right time. So I feel like even if North America doesn't make quarters, if they show up fairly well in the Swiss stage, I mean, I think that's kind of expectation, right? So yeah, it would suck to have like a whole year's work erased because of Worlds. I know a lot of people are talking about like Gen G right now, for example, for losing in like one of the most banger best of fives I've ever seen. And if they flop at Worlds, like that doesn't erase all the work that they've done. And so I think that's something important to keep in mind.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Bulbasaur. Anything you want to shout out?
Shout outs to Kia, a fantastic sponsor of this show, as well as multiple LCS teams in LCS. Shout out to my wife, who has to deal with me watching LCS, Counter-Strike, and now football, now that it's back.
Oh, what does she get in return? You know, what are you watching?
What am I watching? Oh,
yeah.
like with her. Yeah.
Yeah.
We like to watch a lot of different Korean dramas and animes.
Okay.
So yeah, I typically watch those with her. And yeah, shout out to my friends also, who I'm about to carry in a Counter-Strike match.
Okay, good luck.
Thank
Best
you.
of luck to you. Yeah, catch you next time.
Thanks. Okay, bye.
Damonte, talk to me about this video of you all popping bottles that I'm looking at on the FlyQuest Twitter account.
Your form was good, Tanner.
Yeah. Seems like they're not everybody. I think there's a lot of new people, perhaps, to this tradition and I kind of want to talk through like what the experience was like.
There's not enough sports fans, you know. I think everyone's like a bit too much just true gamers. So hopefully when we win the next trophy, then we'll all like get it right then.
Yeah. Trying to see if I could show this on screen. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Do you think who would you rate as being really good at this and who was not great at it?
Well, Busio definitely takes a hard last if you watch him.
Yeah. He drops it, I believe.
Yeah, he kind of just drops it. I will say I'll give him some credit though. He got kind of like unlucky with his bottle because it wasn't a pop off. It was like a cork kind of, or not a cork, but like a beer opener thing.
Yes.
So
like
a little unlucky there, but execution was maybe a 1 out of 10. So
okay.
Andrew Barton was pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like Inspired gets nervous and backs out. I'm trying to see where Nukeduck, are you in here?
No, I'm not in there.
Why did you not? You were just like, this is not for me. I'm not doing this.
No, I was in the black suit. I was so sweaty. I just had to go home and change before the shower and change before the party.
Okay, yeah. Well, either way, I really enjoy this video. I'm glad that they recorded it. I wish that we had just gotten like a second camera rather so that I could see the full wide on all this stuff because it's a little chaotic. But yeah, it is fun to see. I'm glad you guys did that.
Shout out to FlyQuest for that.
It was funny. I went to your offices and played Magic the day after because we had just had that plan to play some Commander, and I saw all those bottles of the recycling bin outside of the kitchen. I was like, "Oh, I know what these were for." All right, Cubby, you want to go grab the next caller?
Yeah.
Off he goes. Thank you to Zemelci for the 41 months and Cartmister for the 5 months over on Twitch. Really appreciate everyone's support. Damonte, how have you enjoyed doing the performance coaching versus playing? Have you gotten past the point yet where I just hear a lot of coaches struggle with like not being able to be on stage or not being able to be on the Rift as you are going through this?
I mean, I stopped playing in 2021 summer, so it's been a good 3 years, 2.5 years now. So I don't really miss it. I think maybe for that first year when I was doing positional coaching, it was like, damn, I feel like I'm kind of like better than the person that I was coaching. So I wanted to like for that first year go back playing, but I kind of knew it's just like it's a lot of ego and it's also a lot of like playing just requires a lot more, I don't know, grinding, more time. It's just way more mentally difficult than coaching is. Not
Yeah.
to say that coaching is easy, because I think the players who go into coaching and think that coaching is easy and it doesn't take effort just kind of don't last. So I don't know. I don't really miss it at this point. I kind of enjoy just supporting everyone.
I guess I just realized, Nukeduck, you've played more recently than Damonte.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. I stopped after 2022, and I had a quick few games in 2023 summer at 400 Thieves as well, while
Yeah.
Quid was getting his visa.
Yeah, it is funny. All right, caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Aemulator. I'm calling from New York City.
New York City. What do you want to talk about on the show?
This is actually a great runway to my question, because I have a question for both Nukeduck and Damonte. I think it's really cool that you guys were players before you were coaches, so I wanted to ask how have your experiences as players been impacted by coaches you've worked with, and like how coaches you have worked with as players have impacted the kinds of coaches that you are today, whether those were coaches you really liked or coaches you really disliked. And then you kind of already did half of this, but do you have any reflections on your times as pros that have impacted the kinds of coaches you are at FlyQuest?
Yeah. What were the shitty coaches that you had where you're like, I'm not going to be that at all when I'm a coach? I think that's definitely where this take is going, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or, positive things too, but that sounds way more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I can start. So for me, as a player, I always respected the coaches that really knew the game and knew something about the game that we didn't know as a team, and he could like teach us that and then like elevate us. I never really thought that coaches that just make like a draft meeting and gather everyone's opinion was like that helpful for me. So like the people that helped me the most, I would say like Yamato Cannon back in 2015. He just taught us like how to like do macro, how to ward, like how to deep ward, how to like push and ward, like the basics. And I really like made our team better. And then also Nelson on Excel also was someone that he was very like invested in the game, and he could like tell us some things and macro things and even micro things that we like that just like elevated our gameplay. So like that's something that I always respected. And then so that's the coach when I was a player. And then when I was a coach, I worked with I've taken some things from multiple people, but Kaz, I worked with him when I was in 100 Thieves. Like he ended up getting fired, but I really thought he was like a really like good coach in the way that he taught me about, as a head coach, you should really watch a lot of VODs. So for example, if you're playing against a team, it's super impactful if you watch all their VODs and you figure out what champions are they like actually good at, what champions do they actually understand how to execute, and which they actually don't, even though they think they do. So if you so he was like always in every morning watching VODs of the teams we're gonna play and other teams. So yeah, basically like I took that a bit from him though. So like the whole playoffs, I've basically just been watching like our opponents, trying to figure out like what is their like real win condition, and which picks do we think like we should counter, which should we ban, which should we hope they pick, and stuff like that. So I guess yeah, those 3 people impact me. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone as well, but yeah.
Did you have like any? I know it's like playoffs are over, so you don't have to spill too many beans if you want. But, like, was there any pick or read that like you felt like you guys had edge on when it came to looking at some of your opponents this playoff run, or like any adaptation that you guys made in draft, like specifically for a team? I mean, I know one is like in interviews you guys against C9 said, hey, we're just gonna pick Ivern and Scale because they can't break us in mid game, and that went pretty well for you. So that's the one that kind of comes to mind in terms of that. But is like any other specifics that you were proud of with your victorious run this split?
So one was I have multiple like reads. One was I didn't think Lilia was overpowered at all. I thought
Yes. Okay. Yes.
So-
I was so with you on that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I thought Inspired, if we drafted him Prios, he was gonna carry with Lilia. That I knew. But I thought that was more of a him thing. I didn't think it was like a OP champion. So I wasn't really like worried about giving it away. I also thought Nasu's mid was not overpowered. I thought it was actually weak to first pick Nasus and put it mid. And that was the game 2 prep against TL. We actually lost, but I thought like the Nasus was useless, to be honest. He was useless. Just like we just like dropped the ball that game. Whereas adaptations, yeah, I knew that we're gonna ban 6 against TL, so then Ash was gonna be like strong. That's why I told Massu to prepare Seraphine, because she can do against Ash like what she does against Sigs.
Interesting.
So I guess those were the and then also I also thought like Brand was gonna be strong against TL because you saw they really play like tanky team comps.
Yeah.
And so they had Nasus mid and we picked Brand 3rd pick. And then their 4-5 was Sejuani Jax. So they played Sejuani Jax Nasus versus Brand. So that was like a read I had. Like Team Liquid really don't care about like being countered. They just want to play like they're good champions. And it actually worked that game because they, while in my opinion they were countered, they like played so well on their comfort that they managed to like snowball the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have like opposite. What should I say? An opposite strategy of mine. Like I prefer to like try to like counter the enemy picks or like something like that, but they prefer to just like play what they practice and they're good at, and then try to like just outplay.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was very much with you about Lilia. Like, if that champ's B1, you get a whole draft to try and beat it. I feel like that champ like has a lot of defined strengths and weaknesses. So yeah.
Before we go back to Damonte with the original question, I'm kind of curious, since you were so candid about what you thought you did, what were good reads or whatever, what were some of the mistakes that you feel you made or misreads that you had during the split?
Me?
Yeah.
So against NRG, we kind of gave them Renekton for free one of the games. We ended up losing. We didn't realize like how good Bippo was on Renekton, or like how big of an impact that was. Like until that game, we realized like, wow, if we had Bippo on Renekton that game, we would have just won. Other reads, it's hard for me to say it's a misread. We did lose, but against C9, we kind of drafted like a early game focused team comp where like the only scaling pick is your jungler, which I thought was the strongest on 14-15, where you like get lane prio as much as possible, play for grubs, and only your jungler scales. But we weren't able to like convert that in the regular season against C9. We lost 0-2. So it was the wrong read, obviously, because we couldn't execute it. But we did learn a lot from the loss. So so that was good. And then maybe we should have picked Ashe instead of Renekton. First pick one game maybe against TL. But we were so yeah, something like that. I guess yeah, something like that.
Yeah. All right. Damonte, back to the original question from the caller before Cubby sidetracked us with a very good question. What
was the
are
question?
what are some of the coaches that you've worked with or the coaching experiences you've had that have influenced you as a coach now?
I mean, I think the coaches that helped me, I think Peter Zhang helped a lot when I first moved to NA, or when I first started playing pro. He was my academy coach. I think that guy did a lot for me. I think Froggen, he's not a coach, but I played under Froggen for like a year. And like the Echo Fox 10-man roster at the time, I got like a bunch of opportunity to play under him. So I learned a ton from Froggen. I give a lot of my career to like that opportunity. After that, I think Anero, he helped me a good amount. Thinkcard, good amount. I don't know. Other than those, I feel like I learned a lot more, if I'm being honest. Like from, well, I guess you're asking as a coach. So
It's
I
like,
don't know.
I don't know. Like a good example would, I don't know if Anero had something that he did that you've brought with you into your coaching experience,
Oh, okay,
or
okay.
something like
Yeah.
this.
Or like, technically we could also go like, are there any like bad coaching experiences you've had that have been like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like this.
I see. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the bad experiences. I don't really want to talk about them
Sure,
too
sure.
much. I think like the 2022, 2023 years when I was actually already a coach, getting to work with Thinkcard and then getting to work with Edward, Mind Body Esports. I think those two helped me a lot. Thinkcard really instilled in me like this idea of like the coaching staff is a united front. So even if the coaching staff disagrees with each other, that we always show to the players like a realm of like positivity, or a realm of like, yeah, the coaches are united on this. This is what we're pushing forward. Kind of like making sure the team is linked together, and not like the coaches are like disagreeing with each other. So it shows like it's fractured.
Yeah, because it's you guys versus them, is what I'm hearing.
No, not at
We
all.
have
I
to
mean,
make sure that it's us versus these players. We can't fracture the team.
no, I mean that's not exactly what I'm saying. Like the coaches need to make sure that they're on the same page, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
that way
understand
the
that.
players don't feel like they're trolling or like not understanding what they're doing.
Sure.
I think Edward taught me a ton as well. He taught me a lot of like sports things, sports, like how sports teams run their orgs, how they run their office, how they schedule, how they run meetings, just like endless things on like the behind the scenes that aren't to do with the games. So
Yeah. No, I think it's cool. I really like this question, Aemulator. So I think it's just fun to hear how, because we're at the point where so many of the coaches are former players, and so hearing
Yeah.
how the experiences that they've had has affected
can I
them.
speak
think
on
is really
that real
cool.
quick?
Yeah.
So Nukeduck actually was telling me about this like a week or two ago, but there's like a whole the generation of players now are getting coached by ex-pro players, and those ex-pro players didn't really have super real coaches when they were playing.
Mhm.
So I think Nuke was kind of talking to me about like how this new generation of players actually rely heavily on some of these coaches, and they can find kind of like lack the understanding of how to play their own game, and they just like follow coaches. I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, Nuke, but I remember that story you were telling me kind of. I don't know. It was. I could remember it very well. Or it was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's especially really in NA, because like you don't learn like that much from NA solo queue. It's like pretty low level, and like macro isn't really a thing, I don't think. So like they kind of learn the game like from coaches instantly when they start even becoming like any good. So they're just like way more like used to being coached, and it's way more like part of their like part of them as a player, I guess, compared to like old school players. So on our team we have people inspired, and for them it's more like they kind of know what they want to do a little bit, and if you as a coach, you have to like kind of prove yourself to them to show that you can add value for them to want to like listen to what you have to say. Whereas like Busio and Massu, they are used to being coached, so they really like it when they have someone to go over every game with. They even like it when they want like me to more like decide what they pick rather than themselves, you know. Whereas like that's just an example, for example. I mean, they could figure it out themselves, but they just like it when I just handle that, I guess. And that's not something like that's normal for me in EU. The coach was not telling me what to pick mid, for example, like in any of my teams ever. So yeah, that's kind of a difference.
Damonte, does Anero realize that you feel like you never had any good coaches?
I mean, it's like, what am I supposed to say? Anero is a good coach, but like Anero didn't teach me as much as Huni did, or that Froggen did. You know, like I think it's just different levels of experience, really. Anero was good though.
Yeah. Anero was good. Rest in peace, Anero.
I mean, he's the org killer, you know. It's like
Oh,
scary.
this poor man. All right, Aemulator. What do you want to shout out here at the end?
So 2 things. First off, shout out Rek'Sai, the strongest champion in League of Legends right now. Incidentally, my favorite champion in League of Legends, but those are 2 separate things, for sure. And then I also just wanted to shout out, I bought my first jersey since a 2016 IMT Huni jersey. So it's a really important time to support the league financially, and I'm finally in a place where I can financially support it a little more. So I copped an Inspired jersey immediately after they won, which I'm very, very happy about. So just those 2 things.
Why'd you wait till after they won?
Uh,
You should have had one beforehand if you were a true fan.
I should have, but it was honestly, it was not responsible for me to buy a jersey like a long time before this, or even
Yeah.
like a short time before this. So then when they won, it was both that part of it and then the passion just kind of taken over. I just
right,
love
that's fair.
Inspired
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
No, completely reasonable. I know people's financial situations change. I think that makes a lot of sense. There was, I don't know if they were running this promotion the entire time or if it was just Numi doing this for fun, but I walked by the FlyQuest booth on Friday and she was yelling like, if you're wearing 100 Thieves merch, we'll sell you FlyQuest merch for 50% off, to try to get people to switch sides.
Oh my god.
And a pretty good deal. I was talking
Good thing
about
I waited then.
15.
Oh, she's now saying 15%, not 50. So I guess that was false advertising. I don't know. Kind of rolling this back afterwards. It's pretty rough.
We have
Yeah.
some reporting to do here.
Yeah.
On.
Didn't realize FlyQuest. They had a bad reputation at the start of summer. Seems like people forgot about that. Now I find out they're scamming fans. All right. Thank you, Aemulator, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yep. All right. Let's talk about NZXT. Dude, NZXT, it's pretty awesome. This is a full NZXT episode because they sponsor FlyQuest. I can't believe that NZXT, we're talking about making good decisions, having good insight. NZXT knew, hey, we're going to sponsor rather than sponsoring a ton of stuff in LCS, we're just going to pick the 2 best parts of it. And they at the time, it was obvious one of those. We don't need to explain that. But they also figured out somehow that the best part of the team side was going to be FlyQuest. So they picked up FlyQuest, and I think it's pretty cool to see that both FlyQuest and myself are sponsored by them here on this episode after FlyQuest lifted the trophy. So it's awesome to see NZXT come into the LCS in the way that they have this year. Really excited to have them as a partner. They do some really cool stuff. I mentioned this last week, but just to make sure that if you didn't miss it, you can now pick up NZXT PCs over at Best Buy. It's really cool to see that they were able to make this happen, because I know sometimes, grandma shows up Christmas morning, Black Friday, Thanksgiving. She comes out and she goes, hey, little Johnny, I know you're a huge fan of Hotline League and FlyQuest, and I got you a Best Buy gift card so that you could go pick up a PC of your choice. And you go, oh, well, an NZXT gift card would have worked, but grandma was at the local grocery and she saw this at checkout, a Best Buy gift card, and so she did that. Well, guess what? Now you can use that Best Buy gift card to get an NZXT computer. They have NZXT cases. They've got NZXT PCs. All this over at BestBuy.com. So you don't just have to go to NZXT if you don't want to, or if you've got some sort of awesome promotional situation over at Best Buy, go to BestBuy.com. Pick up an NZXT Player 2, Player 3, maybe a case, all sorts of cool stuff over at BestBuy.com for NZXT. So awesome to see that they're carrying NZXT products now, and happy for NZXT to have that. So if you do want to check out NZXT, though, from their site, we also have that link, which is available in the chats right now over on YouTube and on Twitch. Also, if you're watching the VOD or listening to the podcast, those are available in the descriptions as well. And when you do, use code Travis5 when you check out so that you can save on your NZXT pickup. We love NZXT. They're a wonderful partner. It's awesome to see that they sponsored not just the winningest show, but also the winningest team of the Summer Split Championships.
I
Finals.
don't know if they were the winningest.
The finals. They were the winningest team of the finals.
The winning team in final.
No,
Okay,
they were.
winningest team
Yeah,
in
but
finals.
in the finals,
Good
they
save,
were
Travis.
the winningest team.
Yeah, good save.
Who won the most in the finals, Cubby?
That would be FlyQuest.
You know, we don't have Team Liquid on the show right now because
No, we don't.
We have the winningest finals team, which is FlyQuest.
Okay.
Cubby, you got to pay attention to these things. Also, why is your camera going staticky underneath? I just noticed that.
That's actually Nukeduck's wall. So that's on you. You got to
All right.
notice these things, Travis.
I didn't realize. I don't know how that worked, but okay, sure. Oh,
Yeah.
that's his. Wait, is it his camera?
I think
that's
it's
in
his cam. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it like invaded your space somehow. Let's
Yeah.
see if I can fix this. It is. Oh, it's
Yeah,
like
you
his
got to
wall.
notice these things, Travis.
His wall creeped up. Okay, I now see what happened. In my attempt to expand him into the scene. Oh, now your lights are going off. What's going on?
Oh, that was Rafa. So yeah.
Okay, there's all sorts of technical issues happening between Nukeduck and Cubby, and I just want to make sure that everyone knows that's not NZXT related. That's just Cubby related and Nukeduck related. All right, now I have fixed it, and now we have Big Nukeduck in the window, and also not his wall invading Cubby's screen.
Sweet.
Anyway,
Now we
we're
can-
gonna
now we
get
can see
into the
my
next
elbows.
caller.
Yeah. All right, let's do it.
Yeah. Shout out Poison Ivy over on YouTube, becoming a member for 24 months, 2 years. It's actually insane that I've had memberships up that long. It feels like just the other day when I turned them on, but time just slips away between my fingers. And I moved into this apartment 6 years ago with Kobe, and I thought I would be out of it within a couple of years. And here we are 6 years later. Time just is frozen, and I can't escape the edge of this black hole that I am in. Either way, you could become a sub over on Twitch. It's really cool if you do. You can hover your cursor over the screen. A blue, purple crown will pop up. It'll let you know if you have a Prime sub available. Doing so really helpful. But also just subbing is very helpful, or becoming a member over on YouTube.
Yeah.
We have.
How old does that make you, Travis?
What?
How old does that make you? 6 years in that apartment? That's a long time, bro.
Older than 6 years.
So like approaching 40?
I would not say approaching. I mean, in one sense, all of us on this call are approaching 40, but look, we got ppdoc here. ppdoc, where are you calling from?
Calling from Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take, pretty straightforward. I think Massu's year is the most impressive year ever by an LCS rookie.
Massu's year is the most impressive year as an LCS rookie. Who else would be up there?
I mean, I think you have to look at Jojo Kuhn in 2022. I think maybe Danny 2021.
Berserker.
Before that, it was by splits. You know, when they did Rookie of the Split, it wasn't really Rookie of the Year. But Blaver, you know, way back when, had a pretty impressive, a couple rookie splits. But I think when you look at the year as a whole, I mean, I can do the typical thing and go through all of his stats, and obviously he made finals both splits. But I think I've always been a believer in the eye test, and I think if you turn nameplates off, he does not look like a rookie at all. I think if you even just look at the camera, he's always so stoic. He's poised. He seems like he adds to FlyQuest. They win because of him and not in spite of him. He's able to play multiple different styles. He's rocking up the Seraphine in the finals. He can play the Ziggs. He can play, the Kaisa, the Ezreal. He can play everything. Really like what looks like a seasoned pro. I've just been so impressed with him. And I'm just a fan general of the LCS. I'm not really a fan of any one team, but man, he's just I always love watching FlyQuest because of him.
All right, Cubby, is this the most successful performance by a rookie?
Oh man, I mean, really good year to Massu in terms of most impressive. I don't know. My head immediately actually goes to JoJo because he won his first split, and then was like I think the first team mid laner in summer where they fell just short, and Worlds was what it was. I don't know, like I can't go like that far back. I'm pretty good on my league history, but I don't remember like everyone's rookie year and who would be the strongest. My gut tells me like it's not going to end up being Massu, just because for me, I think he was second, like third and second team All Pro. I don't know if he was actually All Pro in spring. I'm not sure. I don't know if the FlyQuest guys know here, but probably just for me, Massu, like, he's not the most, like, one of the most important players on that team. Massu is there to do his job, and I think that does speak a lot to him as a rookie. Like, oftentimes you will see teams like build around a rookie to play to them because they aren't strong enough to play like a well-rounded game. I think a good example of this recently would be G2 with Yike and how they've incorporated Yike with their roster as time's gone on. Like, Yike very early on, it was like, okay, we're gonna set a level 1, set the game so that you have a game that you're comfortable playing, and we're gonna play from there. Like, the fact that Massu doesn't need that, and at times I can see him being like just the 4th or 5th most important player because he's going to do his job and be really effective no matter what, I think is, like, unironically a compliment to him. But, like, I remember JoJo's rookie split, he was a very important player on that team because he had to be crazy and make plays to then get that team to the point where, like, Danny could take over later, kind of like what Massu did. So I'm not sure. Like, in terms of recent memory, I'd say it was a better rookie split than what Jan had last year. I think that's very fair.
Here, I'll help you out. I'm going to read off every rookie of the split and/or year that we've ever had.
Yeah.
Santorin, this is in order. Santorin, Move. Everyone remembers Move, right? Gravity
was Santorin the TSM? Did he start with them?
Spring 2015.
Okay.
Move from Gravity, very prominent player in the LCS history.
Oh, he was good at split, actually.
Dardoch, I mean, evidently he got Dardoch, Biofrost, Contracts, Mike Young, Licorice, Blabber, Viper, Fake God, which is kind of funny now, given I feel like a lot of people's feelings about Fake God. Tactical, Danny, Jojopian, Jan, and Massu.
Raz keeps on saying Dardoch. I honestly can't remember that well. Contracts was great in his rookie year because they went Worlds that year.
Dardoch was pretty sick.
Yeah, you were playing back then.
Was that the breaking? I think that was the breaking point split. I'm pretty sure, yeah, because it was spring 2016. So that I think was the season or the split that Breaking Point was filmed in. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, that was the Lorlo team. They lost COG in semis. Oh, that was the double TP split. Yeah, it's the double TP.
I'm trying to remember. I do think Blabber was pretty huge for his team.
Well, Blabber was weird too, because like he was in the split situation. I think the first time he got a full split to himself was 20. No, like because he was
right.
Kind of
he was
splitting.
with Spencer.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that 20 split he like was ridiculous, and Blabber was really good before that. But I honestly can't remember the first split where he got full time to himself. It would have had to been 19. He won an MVP. 20 was his second MVP.
But he won MVP in spring 2020 for the first time.
Oh, okay. That was
spring 21 was the second time he won MVP.
Okay.
So
I don't know.
All right.
I mean, I personally, I would take JoJo. I think he meant a lot to that team, and Mid's like I think Mid's harder to play as a rookie than 80.
So, Nukeduck, how comfortable do you feel answering this, given that you are relatively new? Well, not relatively. Relative to the amount of MVPs that we've had or rookies of the split and year that we've had in the LCS, you are relatively new. But I'm kind of curious where your take is.
I think it's got to be Massu if his competition is like Blabber and JoJo. Like they're strong in regular season, but even now in his rookie year, I think Massu is stronger than both of them at current time. I don't think those players played like that well in playoffs, and I think that's what matters. So yeah, I think Massu is just the GOAT. It's just got to be him. Have you seen Massu on Estral? No one in LCS does that. What he does, you know, like he can just go like crazy, you know.
Damonte, you've played against a lot of these people. I know that you're extra biased right now, but who do you think would at least be in the conversation for this alongside Massu?
I think JoJo's in there. I think Masu's in there. I think because I was in LCS back in the day, I think Dardoch could be in there just because of the feeling of how I had when I played versus him, and then playing with him at the time as well. I think there were other factors that held him back than his play. But Massu, like, I don't know, just to speak on Massu, I hope he's not hearing this because I don't want his ego to get inflated. But I don't think I've ever met a 19-year-old player with the approach that Massu has, the work ethic that he has, like the way that he's able to implement ideas that people tell him, and like the humbleness that he has, and getting the awards that he's gotten, I think goes to show actually just how good he was. Because I think sometimes like these players also like I was kind of worried Sniper might get like Rookie of the Year because he was much more of a personality than Massu, but like Massu, his play really just spoke for him, and he lets that do the job. He doesn't need to do anymore.
Yeah. No, I think it's fair. I'm not sure. I would have to really go back and look at all these splits to get an idea because it's so hard to be like, oh yeah, 9 years ago when Santorin was rookie of the split, like it's difficult not to have recency bias in a decade's worth of awards, but I do think it is really cool to see what he was able to do, and I do like what you said, Damonte, because I think he did kind of fly under the radar, and it is really cool that he got a lot of respect because there was so much hype around Sniper, and I think Sniper had really great moments and some really not great moments, whereas Massu was pretty consistent over the course of the year. So I don't know. It's really cool to see what he was able to do.
I mean, Santorin bought a Sightstone and got the Rookie of the Split, so
I see.
it's a different era for sure.
Yeah. All right, that's fair.
The Wii Sin games were crazy. Raz is right. I remember that.
ppdoc, anything you'd add to any of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the two that were in my mind when I came up with it was JoJo, but I think Nukeduck's point about the playoffs was what sort of aside for me is like putting it up when it matters most. I mean, that's when a rookie's medal is really tested the most, and I mean, I think Massu needs to open like a meditation station or something like that because that guy looks like he's just never flustered. Looks like his resting heart rate is like 55 at all times, and I mean, he's just very impressive when it comes to like. You look at him and you think that that's a rookie, but like you said, I mean, he never looks shaken. And then I think Blabber, was the other person, but because he split with Sven, I couldn't really give it to him for that perspective for the whole year. So, I think the whole performance, including the playoffs, is just an incredible year. And I think because he flies under the radar all the time, I think he needs to get the credit that's due.
Cubby, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Is there anyone in the pipeline that you think could surpass Massu in their rookie split?
Ooh. Honestly, no. I think I know that the broadcast has hit on this quite a bit, but the craziest thing about Massu is that he's wrapping up his 5th split of playing competitive League of Legends, like in general. Like, just put that in perspective for like how far this kid has come along. Even the first split, like there's a clip that it was in like one of the threads or someone responded to a thread. It was an old ref, and the very first split he was playing for this team pending in tier 3. Like they wrapped up a game, and like all of his teammates who have been around for a while, like in tier 3 and playing collegiate, were like, "Oh my god, like Mas, like you're going pro, like you need to go pro, like you're so good." It's the fact that like they had a player this good that was like that fresh to the game was really crazy. And I like watching what Massu was able to do like as a rookie. The ability that he has to play the amount of champions that he does is crazy. Like he was busting out this AP Rylai's Kog'Maw as an answer into Xayah, like in playoffs. Like it just so happens like he's just really good at playing mages, like in his 3rd split, like competing, right? Unforgiven was like blown away by this guy when he was playing against him in NACL. He's like, I think he gave me one of the better sound bites I've ever gotten from a player, whereas if this guy doesn't go pro, something's wrong. Like NA is broken, and to see like what Massu has done and how fast he's done it is like it's really ridiculous. I know that our most valuable prospect, he's the first time to win back-to-back. Yuji he's a great player, but he's been playing for so much longer. Like I don't know if we're gonna see someone that like has actually risen this quickly the way that Massu has. It's gonna be actually really, really hard to emulate.
Yeah.
It's unfair for me to say that like we have a player that's gonna beat that, like quite frankly, with how fast he's like grown to be into this. He's really good.
ppdoc, anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, shout out to PrizePicks, NZXT, Kia, shout out to the OG sponsors of the show, the viewers. It's been a while since we've gotten the shout out. And then shout out, it's in a serious note, it's Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. So if you guys have any extra cash laying around, donate it to a nice charity for kids with unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care.
All right. We are now headed into our next call. I think we've got 2 more calls on the show so far, or to go. So, Cubby will go grab them. It's been about 45 minutes, a little bit more than, since we've had a sub. So I'll just mention, first off, thank you to everybody who does sub. It is very, very cool when you do that, or when you become a member over on YouTube. Doing so supports the show, supports the way that we can create content like this. And as much as some of the content I make is sponsored, some of it isn't, and the viewer support is really what helps make that stuff happen. So I thank everybody who does decide to do so, and we really appreciate it. Nick is calling. Nick, where are you calling from?
Oakland, California.
Oakland, California. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah. So what I want to talk about is shout out to Lol. I think his name's like Lol Mahir. He makes like YouTube content, and I think he's in the chat.
I've never heard of him.
Yeah, I know, right? They only know about you, Travis.
Basil's friend. I see Basil hanging out a lot with
Shout
this
out,
person.
shout out FlyQuest.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Spawn said in his interview that he ideally wants all of his players to kind of like stay for a long time so they can actually like build something for years. And I know this is something that you've talked about over the years, Travis, and I've always agreed with the sentiment that and now back to kind of my opinion, I think teams should continue to try to keep rosters together for a longer period of time to build interest not only in just the players but actual organizations and teams. And it also gives teams time to actually like mesh together rather than a single split. And some of the things that I brought up, I gotta pull this up, is so like back in 2020. By the way, my old username was Insaya, if you remember. So I was like the FlyQuest guy way back when, and still am. But like 2020 FlyQuest, they go to back-to-back finals and worlds. They go 3-3. They beat top esports, and then they just get 5-man boomed. And obviously there's extenuating circumstances of like finances and stuff, and player salaries, and players wanting to go to other orgs. Then there's like 100 Thieves back then. They buy 4/5, I think, of like the 2020 Golden Guardians roster, and that builds like kind of the foundation for them to start like winning some of those early championships, I believe. Then there's like 2022 NRG. They keep like 3 out of their 5 players, I think. They got rid of like Luger and Poom, and then they bring in Ignar and FBI, and then they go into like going to a finals. And another one that I always kind of thought about too was like Team Liquid in 2020 spring. They've won 4 titles, and then they get Broxa, right? Because they don't do that good at Worlds, and their spring split's horrible. But what people forget is like Broxa came like late, and they only gave that team a single split, albeit they were like a crazy good team. And I know that they got like 8th, and it was like a huge disappointment, and maybe double if mental boomed or something. But I always thought it was kind of crazy that like it was just one bad split from a player that had won you 4 titles in a row, and then double if also went on to like win the title the next split after. So yeah, overall, I just think teams should be given more time to stay together, just because it can boost like more people actually caring about the organizations and like storylines rather than just players. Because I'm at this point, I'm just more of a fan of players in certain orgs, and I didn't really watch LCS for a couple years because of it.
Obviously this is something that I've been talking about for a really long time, but I do wonder if it's funny because we're obviously going to see a ton of changes in the league in the off season in terms of the team, even like the teams that are here. But I do wonder if this is the year where we see teams stick together more. I mean, it always feels like this whenever we're setting teams off to Worlds, and then something might go terribly at Worlds, and suddenly all the teams panic and go, "Oh no, we got to rebuild." But I know Papa Smithy has said like, "Hey, we're really trying to keep the majority of the roster together," and I feel like with this roster for FlyQuest, for instance, it's pretty similar. And it's really hard to imagine there being big changes on Team Liquid as well. So I'm hopeful that we get to see some runbacks of rosters in this offseason. And I feel like I don't know, the stability of the success of the top teams in the split, C9, I know being kind of a weird situation. I'm really excited to see what we can do here. Damonte, you were in the league as rosters just change constantly and consistently, and you bounced around between a bunch of different teams. So I don't know, what's your take on all this?
Yeah, I mean, I think if any organization wants to have a run like G2 has had, if you want to have a dynasty, if you want to have a crazy reputation, I think that's like what you kind of need to do. I don't think, I mean, I get it, if you're one of the bottom teams and you have money, then go ahead, blow everything up and try to create something legendary. If you and like try and retain those, it's going to be expensive, but I think like yeah, you don't get the reputation or like level of cred that like G2 has unless you keep rosters together, you keep coaching staffs together.
What, like, back in your time, Damonte, like, why do you think things were so volatile in terms of swapping? And why, like, outside of money, I know that money is a bit of an issue, but why do you think it's different now? Do you think that people actually like did take some learnings away from what you guys did at NRG? Because at least like with the changes that you guys made throughout that run with Thinkcard, it felt like it was all iterations on at least towards working like towards what was going to be successful, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think pre 2020, 2021 area, like it was just a mad dash all of the time. I think it was like a combination of like teams randomly having a bunch of money, teams having GMs that aren't experienced. I don't know. I think like that whole era was really crazy. It was just like a shit ton of money being thrown everywhere. I think now that there's like a bit less money in the league, I think you're gonna see more often like maybe middle of the table players being kept together and like hoping that synergy is what drives the team forward more. I do think it's a good strategy. So like I think if that's the way that LCS is heading, like after 2023 NRG, I was hoping that's like kind of where teams would want to go. So I think it's better.
Yeah. Nukeduck, out of all the teams that you've played on and coached, what is your kind of take on the teams should stick together more often than not, or we need more roster consistency than we've had in the past?
I think it's good to like find like the core and stick together, but I also think like you don't need to keep all 5 necessarily. Like it will be like you just keep the core. It just depends on the team, you know. G2, yeah, they did really well, but it's because they had like the core of basically like Caps and Mickey X that was really good, and then they can still change players, and as long as like, you know, the core and the strategy is like similar, then I don't think you necessarily need to keep 5 people. So for example, like an example would be like, for example, TL, if they don't do good at Worlds now, then like if I was them, I would probably like make like one change, like in one player change probably. For example, just to like yeah, I just think one change can also be healthy. Like I don't think it has to be like all 5, you know.
Yeah. No, I
It's like-
I really feel
Sorry.
like again, I'm not against like any changes, but just keeping core identity together, I feel like is going to be more healthy for a team long term in terms of their performance, but also just in terms of like people giving a shit about the league and the teams that are in it, because people do get attached to lineups of players, and it's funny. I saw the Reddit thread that was like, perpetually you can never have both people excited about LCS and LEC. There has to always be one is terrible and one is amazing. And I
pendulum.
saw the Reddit thread that was like, "Oh, LEC sucks now. And LCS is so much better." And I do feel like, setting aside the sadness around the LEC stuff, if I remember when LEC first popped off was after the rebrand, when we did start to see G2 and Fnatic keep like pretty core components of their rosters for long periods of time. And I love the idea that perhaps we're at the beginning of, I don't know if it's going to be called LCS next year, but for North American League of Legends, a bit of a dynasty building era as we see multiple rosters keep their core identity together and the league start to lift up and things start to get really exciting for North American fans. So I'm hopeful that that's what we're seeing right now and that the lineups that we've seen are cool. But I could say all that, and then in the offseason we could start to hear teams being like, "Oh, Caps is available somehow," or some crazy shit, and then it all falls apart. But anyway, I do like the call, Nick. Anything that you would add on to any of this?
Yeah, to clarify off of like what it was either Damonte or Nukeduck, or maybe they both said it. Like I do agree more of like the core players rather than five, because yeah, for sure, and especially because I think I'm kind of confused by the format, but it's like gonna be a 3-split format next year allegedly, right?
Yeah.
And I know that maybe I'm wrong, but like 'cause I don't watch LEC much, but I think like they also had like a lot of turnover in players with more splits, and it's kind of interesting because I feel like it's maybe kind of going back to an old way where there's just more splits, but they're shorter, and there's like more player turnover. And I think that's good in some ways, but overall, I think it's worse, just overall for like people actually caring about the league and for like the league to grow. And just adding on like a tiny bit, like I think in the time that I wasn't watching, I was still like on Twitter and stuff, but I know like 2022-ish is like when there was kind of like maybe a lot of maybe newer LCS fans that came, and a lot of them were fans of like EG, because like EG comes in and it's like this whole core, and obviously EG exploded for numerous reasons, right? Um, but a lot of people on Twitter, at least that are LCS fans, some of them that even like work for organizations now and stuff, like they were fans of those teams that had personality and that they like tried to keep cores together for more time rather than just like a 3-5 man boom, even if your team was one game from Worlds. Like like another example, just like 2021 TSM, they make a whole video about Power of Evil being like the next mid laner of TSM, right? And I know for these like super teams and they had all this money and they spent it all on sword art and stuff, like not going to Worlds is a huge disappointment, but it's like he was still one of the best players in the league at that time, and no shade to Lost, but I don't think Sword Art signed up to kind of play with Lost, and then like they just completely changed the roster next split, and TSM just went in their downfall. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's kind of like a simple thing that I don't really understand why more teams haven't done it, and maybe it's just kind of like a GM thing, but yeah. I'm happy in the direction that the teams are heading, and I think teams like TL, and FlyQuest and like C9 is probably going to make some changes, but it also just builds like rivalries in the LCS too, which leads to like more interesting stuff going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, that was one of the coolest parts for me this weekend, like seeing the mirror of the TL versus FlyQuest from this split to last split, and how it kind of does feel like a rivalry now that FlyQuest won. Like 3-2 in upper bracket to 3-1 with the team that came out of lower bracket each split. I think the favorites were FlyQuest in spring and TL in summer. Pretty safe to say. Both used their academy system a lot. Mid lane subs ended up leading to a win in spring for TL after APA was summoned in summer, and then Quad. Umti and Quad being like LCK journeymen that came over, winning their first split, starting in LCS. There's actually a lot of similarities, which I thought were kind of funny in how things went. And yeah, the 3-1 script to have the mirrored splits must have been really strong with that end on Saturday.
Yeah,
a little bit too good.
Hey, Nick, thank you so much for the call. Really appreciate it. Anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, I have a couple. Shout out Spawn for that interview, and overall I think Spawn's just like a really cool coach, and he's been pretty vocal about stuff. But I think people are kind of seeing more interesting things about coaches in LCS, and also shout out to Nukeduck as well and Damonte. You guys did a great job. Also for Damonte, 2020 GGS, I think that was such an underrated team, and you were Bjergsen's father for a series. I don't know if you were father for the second series. I remember it went to 5 games as well. Or no, the first series was 3-0. But that was just a crazy time, and you guys almost pulled off the upset of the century. And then shout out Raz for that One Piece meme he posted on Twitter a couple months ago about Yasuo builds. It was like the funniest shit I ever saw. And the last thing is I bet $250 on Team Liquid actually to win LCS, because even I'm a FlyQuest fan, I didn't think they were going to win. And I just kind of copiumed myself to say if TL wins, at least I make money, and if Fly wins, I lose money. But I'm happy because I saw them lose 3 finals in 4 years. So yeah, congrats, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, congratulations on the FlyQuest happiness, if not your money. But thank you so much, Nick.
I've done that in sports, like it's win or lose, or win-win both ways,
Yeah, or lose both ways. Nick, thanks for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, why not segue that into talking about our final sponsor shout out for the night, which is PrizePicks. Folks, if you are listening right now, we don't normally get a chance to do this, but because of the way the schedule worked out, right now there are lineups that you can make for the on PrizePicks for League of Legends. Because guess what? We got T1 on there, we got DK on there, we got KT on there, we got Fox on there, we got a bunch of different options for you to go play LOL on PrizePicks right now. And while you're there, I think some people might not know this, but you can mix and match from different sports. And
Yes.
Cubby, what is this Caleb Williams thing that they've got going on right now?
Well,
Who's Caleb Williams again?
Caleb Williams is the rookie QB for the Chicago Bears. That was the first pick in the draft. And they have a special deal where if he throws over half a passing yard, so if he just throws one passing yard, then you win that leg of whatever lineup that you pick. And I got to say, Caleb Williams had a pretty terrible week 1 and still cleared that by a wide margin. So that is pretty much PrizePicks giving you a free leg if you select Caleb Williams.
Yeah, free square.
So, yeah.
And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. You can just toss Caleb Williams in there next to Faker. That's right. You can decide right now. Let's see where we go. Where are we? Faker. Do you think Faker is going to get less or more than 10.5 kills in the first 3 maps that he plays against DK on Thursday at 1 a.m. Pacific time? Go choose more or less right now. Do you think Showmaker is going to get more or less than 10 kills in the first 3 games? Go choose that. Choose those 2 things. Throw in the Caleb Williams free square. And go do this. If you are new to PrizePicks, please use my link to sign up. You can also use code Travis when you sign up. That will make sure that you get access to a special sign-up promotion when you make your first-time deposit, which is pretty cool. Go check out the sign-ups over there check out all the different options that you can play on the League of Legends board. It is available right now as we're saying this, and also probably when you listen, because these games aren't until Thursday and Friday. So it's awesome that they had them up already.
Yeah, that's not usual.
Yeah, sometimes they aren't able to do it. But I think just with the way the season's going, that they were able to get this up earlier.
Yeah, it's not much league left. That's pretty much just deciding who goes to Worlds. So
yeah exactly. Fun. So you can play Carrier, you can play barrel stuff. There's all sorts of cool things. BDD and Deft as a combo. In terms of, do you think BDD and Deft are going to get more or less than 26 kills in the first 3 games of their match on Friday morning? Go sign up. If you can do this responsibly, if you feel like you're able to do so, make that first sign up, that first deposit. It's the best and most helpful way to support Hotline League and the content that I make, signing up over there with PrizePicks. And hoping to have some good information about Worlds as well soon. So thanks to PrizePicks for sponsoring the show. All right. We've got one final call to go, and then I'm going to be eating a delicious chicken meal on stream. Not sponsored, but just somebody's making it for me, and I'm very excited. Cubby is grabbing them right now. Thank you to Rennie the Croc for the 29 months. Park Mom, noted Travis Gafford hater, has subbed for 4 months. Treethan for the 45. And then over on YouTube, folks, we have received on YouTube tonight 27 memberships, and 20 of them have come from Misha. So thank you, Misha, holding it down for YouTube. Folks, over on YouTube, I gotta say, it's not a bad idea to become a member. You get early access to content. You get to vote to see exclusive videos that I make. It's gonna be fun.
I gotta say, this is the first time I've seen the YouTube earlier in the stream. It had more viewers, and right now they're down only 12 viewers. So
yeah.
YouTube community going off.
YouTube has been starting to surpass Twitch in viewership, if not in memberships and support. So it's very funny to see the cultural difference between the two, since we've been streaming on both for I guess it'll be a year in like November, I think. I don't know, maybe October. It's cool. Zemelci, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from London, United Kingdom.
And what do you want to talk about on the show?
Well, I was going to say beforehand, I've been a long time Twitch sub, and the exclusive YouTube content has strongly made me reconsider moving over to become a YouTube member. But anyway, my actual take is C9 should start the off-season by picking up Thinkcard, now that he's announced he's exploring his options from NRG, as well as much of the remainder of the current NRG coaching staff, and then they should look at building their off-season from there. I have player suggestions as well, but part of my take is that actually I think picking up Thinkcard is the most important, and that you want him involved in your off-season process from early. And the team that I would point to as a point of comparison is G2 2021 when they lost with the Reckless roster. And the earliest move that they made in that offseason was one, deciding that they were absolutely keeping Caps as their franchise player, and then two, picking up Dylan Falco from Schalke, and having Dylan be a big part of building the roster for their next year.
Yeah, so before we get to the person that, obviously worked with Thinkcard and the other head coach in the league, why do you think C9 has to start their offseason with Thinkcard outside of just having a coach early on to decide what you want to do with the team is valuable?
That's a question for you, Zemelci.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry. Run that by me again. I got distracted by Raz posting images in chat.
No, you're good.
Raz, please stop distracting our guests.
I was gonna say, before we talk to the guests, why do you why Thinkcard for C9 outside of just having a coach in there early on is valuable? It's just it's hard to know what kind of impact a coach has, but why is it Thinkcard for you? What do they bring to NRG that it's gonna turn C9 around?
Okay, so specifically, I think that if you look at this current era of LCS, the thing that has been demonstrated in the approach to roster building that has worked with both Team Liquid and FlyQuest is that you want to bring in a mixture of younger and veteran players, and you want to have a longer term building approach. And so you want a coach that can do that. And I think that Thinkcard's resume with CLG and with building up that CLG roster, turning it into NRG, and then leading NRG through that infamous run last summer is a good sign of his ability to be that person to come in and do that for C9.
All right. Hey, Damonte, what were some of the things you liked about working with Thinkcard over at NRG?
Oh, he's muted. Damonte, you're muted. You muted yourself on Discord.
Oh, no.
Hello?
There we go.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, we got you.
Oh, my bad. Thinkcard is really good at rallying the troops. I think he's really good at creating a good team from day one, if that makes sense. He's just understands more sports coaching stuff versus just gameplay stuff. But I think he's good. Yeah, I don't know.
high praise from Damonte. Yeah, I think that it's impressive to see how long Thinkcard's been around, and he's been part of several successful rosters. So I just am not convinced that C9's issue is coaching. I feel like
I mean, Reaper is pretty good from what I've heard.
Yeah, Reaper is good, and I feel like they have recently had a coach who found a lot of success after being part of that roster. So I don't know.
For clarification, I don't think that this is a case of they should bring in Thinkcard and make no other changes. I think they need to make other changes as well. I think the biggest decision of this offseason is, are you keeping Blabber and Jojo because you believe that their mid-jungle synergy will improve? Or if you don't think their mid-jungle synergy will improve, who are you keeping out of the two, and who are you bringing in to replace them? But I think that when you need to make those kinds of decisions, bringing in a coach as the first part of your off-season is the best thing to start with.
Nukeduck, I'm just going to ask you, do you think that C9 should pick up Thinkcard and the current NRG coaching staff in the offseason?
I mean,
no, I'm asking Nukeduck.
Oh, sorry.
Me, if they should pick up the coaching staff from NRG?
Yes.
It's a very hard question for me because I don't know what those guys what those guys do. I mean, I do like Choo-Choos. He goes to Equinox, same Equinox as me.
Okay.
And he's pretty chill dude.
Yeah.
Does he I think having him on board would probably help. And as of but yeah, having someone that can lead offseason is probably a great idea. Because Cloud9 has it's you can make something happen there if you do make the right decisions. In my opinion, they have a lot of like good things going for them, and they just have like a few things like holding them back, I would say. So yeah, if someone capable comes in and leads the offseason, I think they could be like a very good team next year.
Yeah. I'm kind of with the caller's point. I feel like, Jack is in Twilight and he has to decide whether he's Team Edward or Team Jacob with Blabber and JoJo. I don't know. Like I said, for that team, I didn't think that those two, I didn't think that pairing was the move. And I'm curious if that pairing is going to stick around. I feel like both players can be better off in different pairings. But also it's the question of who do you bring in that can be an upgrade. So C9 might just be forced to work with it, which will be interesting. I do want to say that one thing I really appreciate about Thinkcard is there are very few LCS head coaches that I can talk to about the ladder. Not that I have ins with everyone, but just players that are young and up and coming. And Thinkcard this offseason, I got to kind of see him work with him in some of the combines that were going on. Supernova held one. Of course, NRG was partnering up with Supernova. And then there was a big one running the Rift, which had over 200 players involved. And I was able to talk to Thinkcard with some of the young guys on the ladder. And Thinkcard was really good at teaching some of the younger players that didn't have a lot of competitive experience in those, which I think is a difference, a very important skill set, because I've seen a lot of coaches that sometimes care a little bit more about being smart about the game than actually trying to teach, especially when the players are less experienced. So I do think that Thinkcard, he knows the ladder really well. I'll give him that. But I almost would kind of want to see him manage his own project and do what he did at NRG somewhere else, quite frankly. I feel like Thinkcard is the kind of guy where I would like to see him be given a project. And I don't think that C9 is at the stage where they want to blow it up and go with a younger project. Where I would like to see Thinkcard, if he runs his own ship, see what happens. So, yeah.
I guess we'll see how things go in the offseason. But I do think it is an unfortunate time to be coaches looking for work in the LCS. Oh, wow. We just got another 20 gifted subs from Misha over on YouTube. I do think it is an unfortunate time to be looking for work in the LCS as a coach, because I guess on one hand, there are some new orgs that are coming in, but there's so many people that are still looking for work. I don't know if Kelsey wants to get back into it, but Kelsey Moser's still around. I think she's incredibly talented. I think Inaro's very talented. I guess when I say coaches, I also mean GMs. I know Jonathan, who helped build that initial Golden Guardians and NRG/CLG roster, is still looking for stuff after being let go a year ago from NRG. So I don't know. I think it's a really tough time to be looking, but hopefully those guys can find spots, because I think it's been cool to see them in the league for so long. Zemelci, anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, I have. So first up, follow me on Twitter at Zemelci, ZENELCI. If you do, maybe I'll get harassed into writing things more often by my friends. Also, shout out Kia, NZXT, and PrizePicks. I was pleasantly surprised to discover that NZXT exists in the UK, and so I've been planning to buy a monitor from them for a short while, because my current one's old. And so hopefully the code Travis works for me when I do. And then finally,
Travis
on
5.
a bit more personal... Pardon?
I said Travis 5 is the code.
Oh, Travis 5, sorry. Code Travis 5. But then finally, on a bit more of a personal note, I want to shout out the NHS. I recently had my first ever gender identity clinic appointment after 5 years on the waiting list, which is the first step towards HRT. But then also, they took my bloods and discovered a different, not too serious, but treatment required long-term health issue, which I'm now also getting treatment for on the NHS. I have my complaints about it, particularly the outdated system of treatment that it uses for trans people, but it also has great strengths and a good underlying principle, which the events of the past week have kind of reaffirmed. So yeah, that was cool.
That is a really cool story. I'm sorry to hear that there was a discovery that you were not expecting, but
it was not very serious. I don't want to dox my medical history on Hotline League, but I am physically fine It's just my buds turned up something which is like, I should probably be working out what the cause of this is long term. But yeah.
Well, at least
Anyway.
you know now. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for the show. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Zemelci, for the call, and looking forward to talking to you again in the future.
Yeah. Take care.
All right, so that is the show. Thanks everybody who tuned in. Thank you to Damonte and Nukeduck. We're going to go around and do some shout outs and plugs. Cubby, what do you want to promote?
Yeah, shout out to honestly all of you guys this split, like in Hotline League. It's really like I started like I was originally, you know, like a fan back in 2013. I didn't really start getting involved like until I hit college and post COVID where I started casting, but it's really hard for me to just be a fan now. I know a lot of people behind the scenes, and I know how hard a lot of people work, and I just kind of root for them. So doing the show for this entire LCS year is just a great way to connect with fans, and hearing everyone call in about whatever they're passionate about, the fact they're willing to take time out of their day to drop something into Discord, hang out in the Twitch chat, YouTube chat, and then sit in a waiting room and like hope to get pulled in the show to talk with these guys. It is really fun. And like whether I agree or not with whatever take there is, the passion is infectious. So I really appreciate that from everyone in Hotline League. Besides that, shout out to Dragonsteel for winning NACL. I'm covering the Americas tournament this upcoming week, so I'm really excited to catch up with the CBLOL Academy teams and the LRN and LRS victors that get to participate in that tournament along with our NACL teams. So I'll be doing VOD review of some of those finals to prep. And that tournament starts on the 14th. And after this, I have to get my last 2 VOD reviews up for LCS, but I have every game from regular season and playoffs posted, which was definitely my goal for this year. And I'm about to do the same for NACL tomorrow. So thanks for anyone and everyone that supported me throughout the split. And special shout out to FlyQuest for winning. That was a really cool victory. And yeah, hopefully you guys have a good dinner coming up here in a coming day. And also shout out to Busio, who said, "Go Cubby" in the NACL stands yesterday and came out the day after he was victorious as his very first marksman Instinct was competing on stage. So it was really cool of Busio to actually, go out. And yeah, it was fun to see him after he won. So that was cool.
That's cool. Nukeduck, what do you want to shout out or plug?
Yeah, I will need to shout out our sponsor NZXT. They're like giving us all the computers to practice on in the office, big part of our win. And also the t-shirt, Champion FlyQuest Championship t-shirt that you can buy at the FlyQuest shop website, So it's, that's that, yeah. And yeah, good.
Nice. I assume it's very comfortable.
It's very comfortable, high quality, and, yeah.
That's awesome. Full front digital print. I wonder if FlyQuest is going to send me one of these, or I want to be an LCS Summer Champion. Oh wait, Damonte, what do you want to shout out? What do you want to plug?
Same thing as Nukeduck. Shout out the sponsors and Logitech and Andaseat and Leon Bet. So shout out to them. But also shout out to all the people on FlyQuest, kind of like working the back line. So I would say like Nukeduck, Mithy, Arrow, our academy head coach Max, Tontu, our team manager Parker, Tyler, Andrew, myself, everyone at FlyQuest, the people who make these shirts. I feel like the whole FlyQuest org in general, they're trying to do things correctly. And I think the competitive people really feel it on this org. So I'd like to think it's a big team effort. So shout out to all the people on FlyQuest.
Have you met Amanda yet on the partnerships team over at FlyQuest?
Yeah, Amanda works like across the way from me. And she made like this like drawing of like a living room window on a whiteboard next to her, and then I'd made my own picture across from it, so maybe she could show you that one day.
So funny story, she worked at Team Liquid, and then about a month or so ago she started working at FlyQuest. And so I think that was the beginning of the end for Team Liquid. Was FlyQuest took Team Liquid's partnership person, maybe even their best partnership person, and then it was all over for FlyQuest. Of course, they're for Team Liquid, and FlyQuest was always going to win. So it's very impressive. All right. Wow. I want to shout out Misha, who in the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes has gifted 40 memberships over on YouTube.
50.
50? Is that up to 50 now?
Yep. Up to 50.
Oh my God. Okay, well, thank you, Misha, for the 50 gifted memberships. That's insane. I think if you're over on YouTube, folks, there's a good chance. If you're watching over on YouTube, there's a good chance that you are now a YouTube member, so you'll get access to some exclusive and early content. So, if you enjoy that, it's a great way to try it out, and hopefully you'll end up deciding that you want to stick around as a member. But thank you, Misha, for being so generous. That is actually crazy. We will be taking and take note as I say this, we will be taking a 2-week break, which means we will be back 2 weeks from today. We will not be here next week. And because we're not here next week, that means there will be a 2-week break before the next Hotline League. All right? Not a 1-week break. This is a 2-week break.
So 13 days is a 2-week break?
Yes.
I don't know how you came up with this math, Travis. I think you might be wrong based on
it's a 2-week break. Not a 1-week break.
Okay.
I currently have a break that is occurring in my programming, and I just want to make it clear that skipping next week and coming back in 2 weeks is a 2-week break.
Okay. So 9 business days.
We'll catch you all. Damonte and Nukeduck, I feel like, just did not pay attention at all to the drama around if it was a 3-week break or a 2-week break.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. You don't know about the whole thing with Mark and the giant break in the middle of summer? Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
Sure.
Thanks, guys. They just want to get off the show. All right, thank you so much.
We were in Saudi, we weren't paying attention.
I'm just teasing.
To that.
Thanks so much to Nukeduck and Damonte for coming on the show. And I'm sure they enjoyed listening to my joke. Congratulations to both of them and their team for winning the summer championships. Really excited to see them play at Worlds. I'm going to be doing some interviews with a couple of their players tomorrow. Those will be hitting the channel over the next 10 days during the 2-week break. And we'll catch you all in 2 weeks for another episode of Hotline League. As I look to stop the record. There we go. Goodbye.